Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Star Wars Canon Review, where today we're here with Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. And I want to start off by saying this is my least favorite live-action Star Wars movie. I expect that to remain the same. There's only really one movie that could beat it, and we already watched it. So, yeah, it's safe to say that it's probably not going to make it. There's a couple Star Wars movies that are definitely in my bottom tier. There's one more that's coming up. Uh, Maybe on a really bad day, there's two more, but there's at least one more coming up, and I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but you can maybe make the assumptions in your head about what movies those are going to be. But let's talk about Attack of the Clones because I don't hate this movie. I don't even really dislike this movie. It's sort of a meh movie to me, and it's not that it's so bad. It's that it's so middling. There are a lot of things in this movie that don't work. There's only a few that do. Let's talk about the things that do. Let's focus on the positives first. I actually really like the Jedi Arena battle. I don't love it. There's a big issue with the idea of all the Jedi kind of fighting there, and it's that they are peacekeepers. They're not really meant to be warriors. A lot of the Clone Wars is there to sort of describe the fact that, hey, these guys aren't really supposed to be doing this. They don't really know how to do this. And it shows because one Jedi alone probably could have taken a lot of that arena. Like Yoda, well, I know Yoda wasn't there. We'll talk about Mace, Obi-Wan, Anakin. Any of those guys by themselves, or even with just themselves, probably take out a good chunk of the arena by themselves, because they're powerful. They are really, really powerful. So undermining the Jedi ability to like take down very easy to kill battle droids or destroy battle droids. Obviously there's droidicas, there's super battle droids, but that's it. Right? Like the creatures, they're not really around for much of it, and when they are, like they're killed off pretty simply by one person. So even a really inexperienced Jedi could probably take out a whole slew of these battle droids. Force push. Just force push them away. The fact that they're all like cornered by them is ridiculous. Also, how many Jedi are out in assignment? Because I feel like the Council constantly has like a couple thousand Jedi just there. You couldn't have taken like all of them. Like I feel like you probably could have done this pretty easily. Also, one more thing, the Jedi are so eager to not do anything in episode 1. They have no sort of action, right, towards doing anything in episode 1. They don't really care. Like they're like, "Ah, Qui-Gon, you go face off against the Sith." They don't even know there's a Sith Lord here. But the second that they hear about potentially the Republic being screwed, everybody runs towards it. And I think it shows one of two things. One, it either shows that they're incompetent in episode 1, or two, that they care way, way more about stuff like Senate, like political dealings than they do about, you know, taking on the Sith. Either way, it's bad, and it sort of shows why this era is called the Fall of the Jedi. They may be the good guys, but even the good guys can lose. Even the good guys can lose their sense of urgency. And they do that a lot in this movie. Um, while I do really love that scene, there's obviously, I even pointed out, inconsistencies, bad things about the Jedi arena scene. There's other things too I didn't like Anakin, his little turn to the dark side there for a bit. Why is Padme consoling him? I feel like that's a really bad moment in the movie. Any indication of Anakin was so upset, he was throwing a tantrum. I know Padme can deal with a lot of BS. I get it. But I don't think that she would, naturally just be like, "It's okay, Anakin, it's okay." And this is where I start to talk about the fact that Padme's character falls so flat in this movie, it's not funny. It's not Natalie Portman's fault, it's George Lucas's fault. The writing is god awful. I don't understand how you get a character, right? I'm gonna look right in the camera for this one. I don't know how you get a character like Padme, and she was so strong and powerful in episode 1, and then turn her into something so much worse. She becomes second fiddle to Anakin, and she becomes sort of the you know this movie's supposed to be about them falling in love. I don't see that indication from her at all. He does nothing to make himself lovable. All he does is talk about how much he loves her and how they can't be doing this. He doesn't do like the movie doesn't show you why she falls in love with him. They give you a couple scenes, but even the stuff that he says in the movie is not enticing. And I keep thinking, I'm like, if Padme was like a real person, none of this would even be so at all applicable. And I get it, right? Star Wars is a fantasy. Star Wars is a soap opera. It's not meant to be super realistic. But like, there are plenty of relationships where it does matter to be realistic. In fact, actually, George Lucas wrote one of them, and we've seen it already. Han and Leia, right? A lot of my criticisms are going to try to be from the perspective of someone who doesn't know anything about Star Wars and is just watching these for the first time, but obviously that's not true for me. But Han and Leia, right? We'll take the only thing from canon that has come out yet. Han and Leia. Han has to work to show Leia that, like, I love you, please love me too. And actually like entice her to wanting a relationship with him. Like he has to work. He does flirty things, but he also shows that he's not a complete asshole. He does things to help her. Anakin does a little bit of that, but honestly, it falls so much more flat. Right? Like Han, he had a sort of suaveness about him that at least could make him likable. You could understand why Leia was attracted to him. You don't get any of that with Padme. You really don't. Like, why would she ever want to date him? Also, why is she knows the Jedi code enough to know that, attachment's forbidden. She knows it's not a thing they should be doing. And she doesn't have that look in her eyes like, oh yeah, like this is something we shouldn't be doing, let's totally do it. She's like, no, we shouldn't be doing this. And she does a whole 360 in the middle of the movie for no reason and says, I love you right before they all die. And it feels like there's no real build up or payoff, right? The payoff is that they get married at the end of the movie. That seems a little quick, don't you think? Well, it is. None of it makes sense. Like it happens so quickly. So quickly. It doesn't make sense. And that part of the movie is easily the worst. I could go on and on about the Anakin and Padme romance. That's the worst part of the movie. John Williams again cooks with the score. I got nothing to say about that. That's how it's always going to be. Every single movie. And when it's not John Williams, it's someone else. The music in Star Wars is always beautiful. There's no changing that. The CGI is not horrible, but it is aging badly. The only movie CGI wise that I think really still looks good is Revenge of the Sith, and we'll get to that when we watch it. I think Phantom Menace again. I guess it had its moments, and then it also had a really bad moments. And I think the first three are really really good CGI wise because they don't utilize a lot of it, or the stuff that they do utilize was kind of touched up, so the special editions don't look too bad. What else in this movie is weird? Um, I don't love that Boba Fett's a clone. I've never liked that. I think it sours his story, but obviously there's a whole lot more material that will be introduced that sort of makes that, kind of a silver lining for that. Django is not a character that it's just kind of a Boba Fett ripoff. Right? Part of me almost wishes that they just made Boba Fett older and that was just him, you know? And they could do that. I mean, like he would be kind of really old by Return of the Jedi, but you could do it. Maybe. He wouldn't be that much older. I don't know. I feel like him being Boba Fett's dad made him like a whole lot less cooler. And he could have been really cool. Um I loved looking at Coruscant in detail. It's probably the first time we've really gotten that. I love the aesthetic of that big city planet type feel, and I really, really hope that there are Star Wars games that will allow us to really explore it. I think Outlaws is going to do that, but I want other games to do that as well. There's a lot to explore there, and I want to explore it all. Um, Otherwise, the best part of the movie is just the fact that like this story is a lot more exciting than Phantom Menace is. Right? So like where they're going with this is a whole lot more exciting. You can finally see it start to build up. My biggest complaint isn't something necessarily wrong with the film itself, it's the fact that this isn't a Clone Wars movie. Right? We'll get a Clone Wars movie, it won't feel like a Clone Wars movie, and then we'll get a Clone Wars show that feels like the Clone Wars. But I really, really wish that they were able to adapt at least a major battle for a live action movie. I don't think they should do that now. Actually, there was talks of a live action Clone Wars series, and I so badly do not want that to happen. I don't think we need to explore that anymore because the show did so much of it for us. I think what we need now is different aspects of the Fall of the Jedi Order, really documented, like a little bit before Phantom Menace, like years before, not like hundreds of years before. where we can really see them start to pick apart. We can see like a younger Qui-Gon, a younger Obi-Wan. I'd love like a movie with a younger Obi-Wan, if that's possible. I don't know. There's a lot you could go here, but I don't think that Attack of the Clones was a movie that I think Phantom Menace shouldn't have been a movie, and then I think this should have been the first movie, and the second movie was like a Clone Wars tie-in. You could have had Hayden and Ewan there for 3 movies. I think it would have flowed a lot better. But Phantom Menace also makes a whole lot of sense. You got Liam Neeson as a Jedi, so I understand the appeal. That being said, though, the Attack of the Clones really just suffers from the fact that it is just bland. It's exciting, more so than Phantom Menace, but Phantom Menace does a better job with its story. It's executed a lot better. It's very marginal though. Like, I know I said a lot better, but I lied. It's just marginal. I will be giving Attack the Clones a 5.6 out of 10, which is going to translate to an F. I think it fails in its mission as the second movie in the prequel trilogy. I think that it is not a complete failure of a movie. I think there are things to really take away from it that are good. Um, like I said, I don't dislike it, but I do think that it fails in its role as a sequel to The Phantom Menace and carrying over that story. And I think this is the first time, really, for me, Star Wars falls flat. There are things to enjoy, there are things to like about it. I am never going to say I hate this movie. I'm never even probably going to say I dislike it. It's going to really depend on what Star Wars does after, because obviously, if they keep making amazing projects, at a certain point, I'll have to probably concede that this is just isn't good compared to the rest. Um, but if they make worse projects than this, those are the projects I'd probably be saying I didn't like. So that's going to translate to the Fall of the Jedi Order era. Fall of the Jedi era is what it's called. Um, Having an overall rating of 5.8. It's not very good right now. It does get better. There are definitely aspects of it that will get much better. I don't think this is going to beat out uh Age of Rebellion in any aspect as my favorite Star Wars era, but there's a lot more eras to go. I'm excited to go on this journey with all of you. Next video will be Revenge of the Sith, and then we'll have a long Clone Wars debacle. We'll have a lot of content from the Fall of the Jedi Order, and I'll kind of explain how I'm going to be rating the Clone Wars show, but for now, bask in the glory that is the rest of the Star Wars prequel trilogy. Love you all. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below your thoughts on episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Maybe you liked it a whole lot better than me. That would be just great to hear. Because I obviously still really enjoy Star Wars, and I would love to hear someone have a more positive take on it than me. I appreciate all of you. Thank you. Peace.